Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Jen Kretschmann. I'm ready to get started. We've got our link live on YouTube, and we will jump right into calling the roll, and we'll move on to item number 1. CPC?
Here.
Safety and permits?
Here.
Parks and parkways?
Here.
DPW? Oh, we got 2 people coming in. Hold on, this could be DPW. It is. All right, well, we'll come back to Lewis. Parks and parkways, Entergy?
Here.
Sewage and water board?
Here.
HDLC?
Here.
I don't see Renee, so I'm assuming it's just you, Tracy.
I'm here, Jennifer. I'm here.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
VCC?
No, it's okay. I'm on a phone. Sorry. Yes, I'm here.
No problem. Nord?
I'm here.
Okay. Hi, David. You were kind of echoey, but I heard it here. And Lewis, it looks like you're here now too for DPW.
Here.
Okay. And so that's good. We're all here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first item, which is a request for 533 St. Maurice Avenue. Ashley, did you want to say anything about that one?
Yeah, it's a request for wraparound awning and outward swinging doors over the St. Maurice Avenue and Charter Street right of way, adjacent to the 3rd Municipal District, Square 76. Oh, my screen. Lot 12, and the municipal address is 533 St. Maurice Avenue. And I believe someone is here.
Yes, David Dempsey with Workshop WDXL, the architecture firm.
Hi, David. What would you like to talk to us about today?
Yeah, we're just seeking permission for to replace what was the historic awning, wraparound awning on the corner of Charters and St. Maurice Street, and to get any input and see what needs to be done to get that incorporated and permitted.
I just have a quick question, and it's probably because I'm blind. Where does I see the awning on St. Maurice, but going down Charters, where does it go?
It's actually dimensioned. Yeah,
I'm sorry?
It stops after that double door that you can see. It's dimensioned at 30 feet, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And it looks like you're also requesting a ramp on St. Maurice.
No, the ramp is in the rear yard and interior, and there's a sloped walk up to the front door, but not a ramp.
You're proposing a sloped walk.
Yeah, for ADA accessibility.
But that would be like a standalone thing, right? So you wouldn't affect the rest of the sidewalk. You're just trying to build on top.
Yep.
No handrails.
No, it's a sloped walk, not a ramp. At 1 to 20.
I think the issue is going to be that sloped ramp can't extend in front of that gate, right?
It'll be a grade at that point. It graphically shouldn't have gone that far. It should terminate at the end of the building.
We're going to see a revised plan showing that.
Sure.
I'll leave it up to property management, how they want to handle that object. Normally, I think that would be a lease, but
I think that's all under the wraparound awning, so that whole space will be a part of the lease.
okay.
Okay, so we're gonna get the updated plans to show the shorter sloped sidewalk. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments about 533 St. Maurice?
The HDLC did issue a certificate of appropriateness for this work back in March.
Please, when you revise that drawing, please show a clearance between that raised landing outside the door and the fire hydrant. If you can get a real field measurement, it'd be appreciated.
Sure.
And then the existing bollard on the corner, that bollard looks like it's actually even with the face of the building. So please relocate that in the drawing.
Which bollard?
It's called out as existing bollard
Mm-hmm.
at the corner.
Yes. Okay. I'll make sure that's in the right location and dimension.
Yeah, it's actually in the grass on the Charter Street side. And then also please draw the stop sign for good measure.
Stop sign. Okay.
Just a reminder that you stow some proposed trees. You'll need to get permits for that, so we'll need to see a landscape plan.
Okay.
Okay.
And then you're moving the stoop on Charter Street?
Yeah, it is our understanding. We're working, with SHPO and HDLC, but it is a precast non-attached stair to a door and a landing that's going to be outside. It's going to be not in operation, fixed, closed, outside of the infant daycare room. And so we were proposing to remove it, but
No, by all means. Just need to know if it needed to be on the drawing.
no, that we're like to get rid of that.
Okay.
So what I have is fire hydrant dimension from the entry raised platform at the door, bollard location corrected, stop sign located, and then landscape tree plan needs to be proposed and presented.
Sounds good. And that fire hydrant may not even be even with that stoop really in real life. It looks like it might be a little closer to the corner. Let's check on that.
Okay.
And David, I'll connect you with Parks and Parkway and DPW via email so you can send those updated plans to the right people.
Great.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to item number 2. Thank you, Mr. Dempsey.
Thank you.
Okay, we have consideration number 2. It's a request for a long-term lease of unconstructed 2-lane avenue for parking adjacent to the First Municipal District Square 790. And the municipal address of the property is 4201 2-lane Avenue, but it's adjacent to that address.
And I think we have a representative for the applicant, Claire, on the call.
Hi, everyone. My client purchased 42012 2-lane in 2020. It's currently under development, and they would like to pursue a lease from the city of the property across the street and adjacent for parking, both to clean it up as well as to have the available parking for their facility. They had been investigating the ownership, and since it's along the interstate, they had been looking with the Department of Transportation, but we recently learned that the city may have ownership. And so we're hoping to find out what the path is and what you need from us to look at a long-term lease for the project.
This is Steven from City Planning. I'll just note that this is within, so Claire, just for your benefit, City Planning, among other things, does design review for projects along certain major corridors within the city. By virtue of being along 2-lane Avenue, even though it's on public property and kind of under the interstate, it is within a corridor, so there will, as the parking lot is designed before it's permitted, there will be a design review function that the City Planning Commission will need to conduct. And so whoever, the architect or whoever ends up handling this as it moves towards the permitting stage will need to just be in touch with the Planning Commission about submitting that application.
Great, thank you. We'll do that.
Further to that note, this is Chica Hartman with Parks and Parkways. It looks like your plans are calling for the removal of street trees. And so we all need more information and details as to what you're actually proposing doing. So
No, so we can do a tree plan and provide a landscape plan along with photographs of what's existing and what can be retained. It's more of an overgrown space than any individual trees, but we'll get deeper into it and mark and identify all of the trees that we can and get with you on that.
There's a lot of shrubby growth in that area. Now, granted, I was doing Google work, but basically it looks like you're taking out about 6 or 8 very large pines. And so we not only need to know about the trees being removed, the tree replacements, and all the other things that Stephen's going to be looking at in the design review and the parking lot considerations.
Is this something we can submit simultaneously, or is there a preferred order?
I'm,
Speaking for city planning, I mean, if you could give, when you submit the set to city planning, you're gonna need to have a site plan, a landscape plan. And so you can certainly communicate with Parkways about the content of the landscape plan before formally submitting it. Or you can submit it and we can kind of have that discussion as part of our review. It's however you want to sequence it.
So Claire, speaking on the lease process, any long-term lease has to be authorized by ordinance through city council. And because it deals with the disposition of a movable property, there's a period for the ordinance to lay over. There's also a period of time to actually complete the lease contract. Generally speaking, I usually tell people that process takes about 4 to 6 months. How you want to do the sequencing with the other departments, you know, I don't really have a good advice on that, except that certainly you don't want to lease something and then find out that you're not going to be able to have a feasible project for other reasons. So I'm happy to work with you to move it simultaneously, but if you want to do the design related reviews first, and then come back to us to start the ordinance process, you know, that would make sense too.
I know our client's very flexible. I mean, in design, he would like to see this cleaned up. There were tires and needles and things like that out there. So as far as how it's designed, I think there's a lot of flexibility, but having it designed and lighted and things like that would be a huge benefit to the property across the street. So I think we do want to know what the design is and work on that. And I think simultaneous, but I do think they're flexible as well on the design.
This is Tika with Parks and Parkways again. You know, we're glad to work with your landscape architect on an informal basis or, you know, in iterations. It's
Okay.
easier for us usually to go ahead and, you know, get drafts.
Okay, great.
You know,
Great.
it's and have some discussion rather than just coming back with a hard no or a hard yeah, you know.
No, exactly. That would be great. So I'll talk to them about getting started on something and then get with you on some ideas and we can talk through what you want to see, and then try to design that, take that into context in the design plan.
Well, they, you know, but as Stephen said, you know, CPC also has design criteria, and I'm sure DPW has also design criteria. So, you know, we're all working together.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Todd with Safety and Permits. I was just looking at the site, the property viewer, and it appears that there's 2 different zoning districts that may be crossing the line, the particular property. And so that may be something that CPC and ourselves will have to work out as to which portion may involve a conditional use and which portion may not. So that's just a little alert.
Yeah, we were confused by that ourselves. There's one
Yeah.
district for 4201. There's a different district for the residential single stories. And then there's another district at the end where the multifamily building is.
Right. I think it's an MU1 on one end and then HURD2 on the other, but I can't exactly tell where the line crosses the property, but we can work that out. Just a heads up to a conditional use may be required proportion of it at least.
Having learned this the hard way in the past, if a conditional use is going to be required, that will also be a condition to commence the lease. Like, just because it's city-owned property doesn't mean you don't have to follow all of the requirements.
So can we pursue the conditional use also at the same time, or does that need to come first? I mean, we don't have any, I guess I think of pursuing it once we have some sort of agreement of lease, but we can do that at whatever order we need to do it in.
Yeah, well, we could make it like the term doesn't start until the conditional use is fully recorded.
Okay.
Or, and that way we can have it all queued up so that there won't be the lag time with the contracting process. But we will definitely want to see that process fully completed and recorded before a lease can take effect.
Okay.
This is Joyce from Sewage and Water Board. So the area for parking is the grass area? Like on,
Yeah, it would be the green space that's across the street between where you see the highway and that road. It actually is a little bit blocked by where the view from the highway, but it is in that area.
so Sewage and Water Board has a water line, but I'm not sure exactly where it falls. I got some dimensions, but on your sheet C101, I printed it out as 11 by 17, but I see you have a scale from 1 to 40 and 1 to 20. So I'm not in, I was trying to, since it's a different shape, I was trying to measure to see where the water line falls. If it's used for parking, Sewage and Water Board doesn't have any objections, but I would need further review or further information on exactly where the water, if the water line goes through that area. But I see you have a survey, C101, but it shows well, it's showing manhole covers for drainage, sewer, and water, but it's not a line. I just see the manhole covers just showing on your survey, on your lease survey.
Sorry, this is actually what I have on the screen right now, LaJoyce, came from DOTD prior to the creation of the ramp.
Okay.
This was to kind of try to help us identify, who the owner is essentially.
Okay.
And apparently DOTD is stating they are not the owner. But this is very old, and who knows what got moved when they did the ramp. So well, that's kind of tough for you, Claire, but we might need some kind of utility survey just so so we can navigate what is needed, or we can assume that it's there and that you'll need to provide ingress and egress to Sewage and Water Board for maintenance.
I'm going to see if we have any other survey documents on that. And if not, we'll have to include it so we can identify exactly where it is. I mean, if we only have a manhole, I don't know which way to provide. If they only need access to the manhole, but not the line, I guess we could provide ingress and egress without knowing where the line is.
It would be the line, but I'm just looking at that drawing that was submitted. It has an aerial and like somebody plotted some lines in AutoCAD, but there's some circles with a D and a S on there.
This one that I have up now, LaJoyce, has the D.
Well, I don't see it. I just.
Jen, what we're seeing is just like a Google shot.
Yeah.
Nothing with any lines on it, not what they submitted.
I'm sorry. Let me just, my bad. I thought I was sharing the other screen. Let me. This is the Rome office parking layout draft.
And then that's another drawing.
Yeah, the
Two
other
other
one.
drawings.
Oh. Okay, this one.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't see that one. I apologize. Okay. Well, we'll just have you do further review on the water line. Is that all right?
Ola Joyce?
Yeah.
Further review? Okay. And then if they could get a survey, that'll be great too.
If we can do that.
So and that would determine if a servitude is needed. If it's not in the area within the grass area, sewage and water board won't need a servitude.
Y'all are looking at parking literally under the approach ramp, correct? Going out into, is that a paved street?
So that's 2-lane avenue where it continues. And so it runs alongside an on-ramp. So where we're looking to have the parking is between 2-lane avenue and the above on-ramp.
I'm
Oddly
sorry,
shaped piece.
Jen just took me away and said that there's a little square in blue and it looked, back up. Okay, see that one parking lot that goes to the right, not the one to the left,
Yes,
but the one to the right. That's also an area. So you're going to be parking under the expressway?
Potentially, that's an area they would be interested in if it's available, if that's owned by the city, and if that's something the city would be willing to consider. It's directly across the street from a property. It was also in bad shape, and they've done some cleanup out there. They unknowingly thought that it was DOTD who gave them permission, and then find out later that it appears to be city. But they would be more than happy and would really appreciate the opportunity if it's city owned, and if you consider it leasing it to them, both for parking and just to clean it up and light it to be across from their building.
I don't have any objection per se. I'm just trying to understand what's going on. And, you know, let's go looking at 4201 and you see an arrow going to the left on 2-lane, and then it curves around and comes down a little bit. No, to your right, to your right, to your, and then it comes down. Is that a one-way street?
That would be the entrance into the parking that's currently green space.
No.
It's not a one-way street right now.
You see the arrow in front of 4201?
Yeah, it's not a one-way street.
Intersection, and then it comes down. There you go. See that arrow? Does that mean that's a one-way street?
Once it makes the turn, it may be one way. 2-lane is 2-way, and I was on it recently. I don't recall, but that could be a one-way. It loops under the interstate into that adjacent property.
Right. Okay. So my point being, if you're parking and you're coming out onto a one-way. So then what's your traffic pattern to get back to anything else?
True, because the arrow is pointing down. So we'll have to take a look at that. And it can be reconfigured, but I will check and see if that's a one-way street, but it does appear to be.
Well, that's just my point, is I'm not sure where how you're gonna get out of there.
Well, you would go out on towards Carrollton, right?
You'd go out that way towards Carrollton. There's another property, and I think there's a through street that takes you out that way. It's not shown, but I'll check on that.
Yeah, it just goes back to Carrollton onto 2-lane.
I have a question. Are we talking about?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Oh, I have a question. Are we talking about the rectangle, not the other shape?
We're talking about both if possible.
Oh, okay. All right. Because the square one, yeah, they probably definitely have some utilities there.
We will look at utilities on both.
Okay.
And I'm sure DOTD, I would think DOTD would have jurisdiction under the bridge itself, under the overpass for that rectangle.
They're saying they don't. right?
Yeah,
Claire?
we've spoken with them and they were more than willing to grant us, some sort of a lease or servitude, but then they came back to us and told us that they didn't own it. They gave us permission to use the small rectangle as almost staging and to clean it up. We removed tires and all kind of trash and debris, but now they're saying they can't grant us any rights to it, that it's city owned.
Okay.
I find it interesting because they told me the exact opposite. So they own, to my knowledge, they own most of the property under the ramp.
Tika, who did you talk to?
Oh, geez. Look, I'm old. Let me go back into my emails and see if I can find anything.
Yeah, because they've been working with them since last year and they were more than
Oh.
willing to do it. Our client has worked with them directly and like I said, they gave him permission to use that area for staging, that rectangle, and let him take out tires and trash and stuff and clean it up. And then later said, oops, we don't think we own it.
I'm fine, one way or the other. I just have a long time ago. So there's been a lot of change in DOTD management and maybe somebody made an error. I will look to see what I can find.
Yeah, because I'd like to, if there is a confusion and they do have rights there, I'd like to go ahead and pursue that at the same time. And if you can help us with any confusion, because we're listening to what they're saying now. And
it sounds good. I'll do what I can.
So Tika, I'm going to reach out to DOTD. We've always, when this area has come up before, we have had the belief that it was DOTD, or, possibly the remnants of Tulane as shown in this 1938 survey, but it's hard to line the things up from 1938 till now. We did look at the Sanborns also and kind of came to the conclusion that, yeah, this might be remnant Tulane and not part of what was acquired by the DOTD for the ramp. But that area under the ramp, as you know, typically would be them. So we do need to talk about it. That's going to be, I will definitely make sure to have that conversation.
right, thank you.
Louis, do you have any memory of this area?
No, I've never dealt with it before.
No? Okay.
It seems like there's, in recent times, maybe there's some precedent for DOT saying that some areas underneath overpasses are ours.
There is
Like,
some
to like
precedent for that.
Claiborne,
Mhm.
North Claiborne and South Claiborne, I think. It came up. But yeah, I don't have anything beyond that. And my only, the only utility I see that we would deal with is there's a 15-inch drain line behind the curb on Tulane Avenue. So yeah, that's it. So we do have a city utility there.
Is that something where this design would impact your ability to maintain, or if they're within those boundaries that they're showing, would there be any issue?
As long as it's a lease,
Yeah.
there's no issue.
Okay.
And then we would just continue to work as far as curb cut design and the layout of the parking lot itself. But mostly the driveway design is what we'd be interested in. And then at some point, Tulane Avenue right of way ends, I believe. I'm not really sure where that ends and the private roadway begins. But I'm sure the survey will show that. But I know our utility goes up at least to that first catch basin, maybe the second one after Hennessy. or Solomon, whatever that is. Tennessee.
Jeremy, any thoughts from Entergy? Yeah, I think he's coming on and off mute, but I can't hear him. Can anybody else?
Nope.
All right. Well, Jeremy, we can't hear you, but I'm just gonna, I'll assume you might need further review of utilities, and you can let me know by email if you need to. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on item number 20 or number 2?
Well, I do wonder, how do you expect to use the parking lot and manage it? I assume it's private parking.
Yeah, so the
Right.
building across the street is intended at this point to be a co-working space. So that would go along with their lease at the co-working space to use that parking lot. It
Mhm.
would be managed by the building, and the lighting and landscape would be managed by the building owner.
Okay, I mean, just so they're factoring in for costs, any lease agreement would, require insurance to be carried in favor of the city. And if they're going to use a third-party operator, we may need that third-party operator to also carry the city as a proviso of the lease for liability coverage. And I can send you an example of where we've done that at other locations.
Okay, I don't know about the third-party operator yet. There may be, but I will find that out.
Yeah, because that's the person with the greatest ability to avoid the loss. So that typically who's actually carrying the right coverage if the building owner isn't. So, but we can work through that detail. It's just something to keep in mind. That's sort of really premature given all of the other.
It's still under construction, so at this point, it's assumed that the owner would hire somebody who's going to manage the property and manage the business. But that very well, if it grows, could end up being a third-party operator. So that's not known yet. I think at this point, we're looking at the owner, but I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, right. Even if it's not, we can make that, contingency if that comes to pass during the.
If it does shift, then we provide the insurance.
If it shifts during the term of the lease, then they'll be responsible for obtaining the coverage from that third party.
And then sorry, you have to keep.
Go ahead, Louis.
So there's a fence in place now. Would it be a term of the lease that another fence would be built, like to replace that in a different position?
I'm not sure. I was out there, but I'm not sure which part is still fenced. It's open to walk across it. There could be some fencing on the side or the back, but I don't.
Yeah,
recall.
there's looks like there's a chain link fence in the survey. And I mean, it is out there apparently, but it runs parallel to the overpass a few feet off.
And for security, I don't think they'd have an opposition to that. I mean, they want it to be a secure area.
Yeah, I mean, I just assumed the city or DOT installed that fence in the first place.
It could have been UPT, since we're close to the tracks there too.
There is an Amtrak fence, but there's also, actually, you know what it is? There's an enclosure for the adjacent, maybe that's Enterprise. It looks like Enterprise has some kind of lease going on underneath the overpass already that extends into this area.
Yeah, I see the chain link fence you're talking about back there. There is something back there.
Yeah, so that's actually extending into this area that you're talking about leasing.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know anything about that? So the underside of this thing is already taken up by another entity.
Down on this side, this is Entergy, or I mean Enterprise.
Enterprise. Yeah, so there's like a storage area already under that highway. I don't know what the arrangement is there. That could have been some arrangement with DOTD or no arrangement at all, but has been formalized, at least in the physical world.
The only thing I could say is that DOTD didn't indicate that the properties we're asking about were under lease to anybody else.
Well, what you're showing in C101 is certainly part of that is that storage yard.
Yeah.
Might be something where we want to reach out to both DOTD and, if necessary, Enterprise to try to get a sense of what's going on. I mean, there's squatters everywhere, so it could be that it's just the situation. I'm just going to make a note to look into, you know, if there's anything recorded in land records with Enterprise as well.
And I'll find out from the client if they've gotten any information when they took a look at the property, because I know they're out there all the time.
Thank you, Claire.
Oh, thank you. Guys, I really appreciate this.
Hopefully we've sent you in the right direction. Okay, any other questions or comments on 42012 Lane? If not, I'm going to get moving to item number 3. Hopefully I have the updated plans. It doesn't seem like hold on one second. I know everybody that we got some updated plans from the applicant with some more details on the structure, canopy, awning. I'm not sure how we're classifying it at the moment for 5757. Hopefully everybody got that email from Ashley this morning. I'm trying to sorry, I'm trying to pull that up and I thought it was in the folder, but it's not. Ashley, do you want to read the item number while I try to find this?
Yeah, so it's a request for a servitude of air and ground rights for a wraparound awning with columns over the Magazine Street and Nashville Avenue right-of-way, adjacent to the 6th Municipal District Square 28, Lot B1. And the municipal address of the property is 5757 Magazine Street.
Ashley, I'll just note that this is going through an administrative design review with the City Planning Commission. That review is basically complete pending the lease consideration. So really nothing further needed from City Planning.
Okay, thank you.
We recently saw this, right? Where did we see this?
I know CPC did something recently with it.
Is that a DAC thing? Or a PAC thing?
Jennifer?
We approved this in some group recently.
Yes. Jennifer?
Yes, Chris Young is here for the applicant. Did you want to talk about this project?
Not really, but I do want to note that it has gone through the DAC and it's gotten approval. I think that's what Mr. Haywood is referring to.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Haywood participated in that process. But I'll certainly answer any questions, Jennifer. pretty straightforward.
Just a quick question here. It looks like there's encroachments on the Magazine Street side with the planters, et cetera, that you've got there now. Is that correct?
I don't believe,
I beg your pardon?
I said, I don't believe so, but I should note that the architect who is handling this project is unable to participate today because of the notice that she's out of town. But it's my understanding there's only encroachment on the Nashville side. Is that accurate?
I mean, there's a dotted line, and I'm assuming that that's the property line. Is that am I misconstruing the line?
I don't know because I'm not the architect.
Well, based on the drawing, Tika, there's no encroachment in the Magazine Street right of way. Now maybe there is in the Google
it
Street
looks
View.
like it in fact, but okay, if y'all have already reviewed it, I'll back off.
I mean it's that dotted. It's not the 1311 dimension. It's that 8-foot dimension is the distance from the curb to the Magazine Street right of way.
It sure doesn't look like that currently, is the only comment that I'd have on that, Louis. I agree with Tika. There was on Google Earth, you could see that they could barely get a stroller through. I'm just not sure about this 8-foot measurement.
Well, the sidewalk on Magazine Street is 8 feet in that area to the property line. I think that what you're seeing in the street view is that those planters are actually going into that 8-foot sidewalk, and that's why it looks so small. So I think there is an illegal encroachment in the street view image, but that's not the same place that's shown in the plans.
Well, but that gives me pause then if they're already illegally encroaching.
Well, I'm sure they'll straighten up.
They would need to include it in their lease provision and or move the planters back.
Jennifer, can I?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. So, is that who was speaking? Miss Hartman? I don't know the answer, but I can. It's my understanding that we do have an 8 feet width sidewalk, and that we're not encroaching on Magazine. But I mean, we certainly can verify that, or you can, stipulate that if we have to get permission for that, a lease. In other words, a lease, or move them back. But it's my understanding that it's not encroaching. And
right on the design, it's not encroaching. So the design location of the planters is not the same as what you're seeing and probably what's out there now. So those planters are on top of that brick area. So that's where those planters would have to be in the future, is on top of that brick area, and that would put it outside of the Magazine Street right of way.
Yeah, that's a picture from the height of the pandemic outdoor seating. It's my understanding that is not what's being proposed here for approval.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we're just trying to make the point that an ADA path of travel for pedestrians is one of the reasons that this group exists, is to talk about issues that affect the right of way. And if the planters were to continue to be pushed out onto the sidewalk like this, it would, warrant further action. We can certainly talk about moving forward with the Nashville side of the encroachment. Does anybody else have any comments on Nashville side?
Could I just note something, Jennifer, again?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
If we're encroaching, obviously, we're either going to move those planters or come back. But I was, as recent as yesterday afternoon, I was told by the architect that we're not encroaching on Magazine, and there is the requisite 8-foot sidewalk along Magazine, as Mr. Hayward had noted. So that she specifically mentioned the 8-foot width sidewalk. So
I understand, but there's a great deal of difference between what's shown on a plan and what is done in practicality and actuality. And that's all I'm trying to do, is to make sure that you do indeed adhere to the 8-foot right of way with pandemic or not.
No, of course, I understand. I'm just noting that I was told it's not, and the reality is I don't know.
Yeah.
But we will find out, and if it is, we would come back. But I was told we're not encroaching on magazine.
Yep.
Are these footing details acceptable to DPW, Louis?
Are they signed and stamped by a licensed structural engineer?
Yes.
I'm sure they're acceptable.
There's civil engineer, same as structural engineer.
Ooh. Might be a matter to be discussed at DPW. They'll give us further review. My people always say structural engineer, so we'll see.
Chris, how hard would it be to get that done by a structural engineer?
Yeah, I mean, again, I apologize for my ignorance, but I do not know if a structural engineer is the same as a civil and vice versa. But yeah, we can get it stamped. Whatever's required, we'll get it done. But does anyone know if a civil engineer is the same as?
I don't know. It's going to depend what these
There are
guys say.
different courses to study at Tulane, I can tell you that.
Yeah, it probably is not. Probably is not. But you know, if you just give us further review, we'll get that answer to you. Save you a couple $1,000 probably. But we always say structural. I know that. And an architect doesn't count.
Ashley, what does our email say? Just for future reference.
It says structural.
Okay. Thank you.
I couldn't make it to the unmute button fast enough.
It does say structural on our form email.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, structural engineering is a discipline of civil engineering.
We're talking.
Okay. So
this is Jeremy Rich with Entergy. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi. If those planters are within the sidewalk, we would need additional review because we have a gas line that's 2 feet off the property line at that location.
We won't allow it, Jeremy. We're not going to allow any encroachment into the sidewalk on Magazine.
Okay.
Even if it's requested, it would be denied. So we're not going to do that.
Sounds good.
Just for my a few questions that I have for Todd, I guess. Is this a sidewalk cafe? Is this a parklet? Are there any permits related to this?
Details. There is a permit for just the renovation of an existing commercial restaurant. I don't know.
There's a sidewalk cafe license that should be obtained for the Nashville side.
Yeah, I don't.
Do the tables come in at night, Chris?
I'm sorry, what's that? Jennifer?
Is the furniture removed back into the restaurant at night, or does it remain there overnight?
No, it remains there overnight, locked up.
Okay, so if it remains there overnight, that's more of an exclusive use than a sidewalk cafe. So you'll
We're
need
not on this. We're not on the sidewalk, right?
You're not on the Magazine sidewalk. You're definitely on the Nashville one. Isn't that correct?
Right,
Correct.
anything within that right of way is going to be considered a sidewalk cafe, even if you're under this canopy and you have the lease for that air rights.
Louis, they don't bring the tables in. It's an exclusive use.
It's a good question. Or maybe it's not a question. Maybe you know more than I do.
So Jennifer, it's only 2 tables on the Nashville side. So if we had to, we would move them in. If that's a requirement, that's not an issue.
And we could, safety and permits here, we can look further into that as we move along in this. I'm not positive on that either at this point, but further review.
Sorry, I'm just going to bring up the site plan again so that we're all on the same page. Okay, leaving aside the magazine issue, there's only 2 tables in this area of Nashville,
Correct.
but there are planters, and
Correct.
so would you consider it to be open to the public, or would you consider it to be exclusive to Saba's use?
I mean, I don't know, Jennifer, but I can ask. But I mean, I would think that it's probably exclusive, but I don't know the answer, so I don't want to give an inaccurate answer.
Okay, that's all right. We can review it amongst Todd and Louis and I and come to an understanding. I think when you start putting footings in the right of way, you getting out of the area of a sidewalk cafe and into a long-term lease situation. But we will review that more closely, and it will be in touch. Does anybody else have any other questions on item number 3?
I apologize for the late question. Just how high is the awning, this permanent awning that we're doing from the ground?
We do have a side view. I'll pull it up.
It's on the plans, Jennifer
Mm-hmm.
and Ms. Hartman.
It's on the last page.
There's an encroachment notes. It's 16 feet 8 inches.
10 foot 6 clear from the ground.
Ten foot 8.
10 foot 6 clear from grade.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's to the top of the awning?
16.8 to the top of the awning.
Okay. One of my concerns is that you have a live oak that's growing right next to it. That's going to require pruning. At some point, you'll need to get a permit, a Louisiana licensed arborist, to submit for a permit to trim the tree.
Understood.
Yeah, looks like it shouldn't be too much different than the existing awning, though.
I'm sorry, Louis?
Looks like it won't be too much different than the existing awning that's on the building over the public right of way.
They're extending it, aren't they?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, well,
I think they're just putting down
regardless,
poles.
they're going to have a
Really.
problem. So just need to point it out.
Okay, thanks everybody. We're gonna take a short break to allow 2 minutes to check our emails for any public comment on these items, or if anybody from the public is observing and wants to submit a comment, you can do so at realestate@nola.gov. we'll take a short 2-minute recess in order to check for comments. We'll be back in 2.
Yeah, what's up? We have a commission meeting today, so he needs to be downstairs in city council chambers. I'm gonna deal with it. I got it, but I wanna say it's on this side of the building, so get off the elevators and go to the right.
Tracy, you're on, you're live.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. That's the 2 minutes. We did not receive any public comment on any of these items. So we're just going to go ahead and vote. Although I see CPC has dropped off. Let me just check if he emailed, if he has any objections. Nord has no objections. Okay, so on item number 1, which was 533 St. Maurice, I'm going to make a motion of no objection, subject to further review by Parks and Parkways, DPW, and real estate, pending the updated plans and the permits required for a landscape plan. Do I? Excuse me. Do I have a second? Seconded by HDLC.
Want to do an all in favor?
All in favor? Sure.
Aye.
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 Any nays? The motion carries. On the second item, which is 42, the remnant 2-lane right-of-way near 4201 2-lane, that is going to be subject to further motion of no objection, subject to further review by CPC, Parks and Parkways, Safety and Permits, Sewage and Water Board,
DPW.
and DPW. Do I have a second?
Second. DPW seconded.
Okay, DPW second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any nays? Okay, motion carries. Third and final item, which is the 5757 magazine awning over the Nashville right of way adjacent to 5757 magazine. And assuming future full compliance with the ADA path of travel on the magazine side, I want to make a motion of no objection, subject to further review by safety and permits, Parks and Parkways and DPW.
Safety and permits second.
Thank you, Todd. All in favor? Aye.
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 Are there any nays? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, everybody, thank you. Sorry this one went long. I do really appreciate all of your input on each of these items. I think it will help us to move them along more quickly. And yeah, everybody have a good rest of the week.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.